This is Doug with the Practicing Accountant podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a new survey done by the AICPA in which it collected data around client advisory, not accounting, client advisory services, which you may be curious exactly what that means, and you'll find out if you listen to this episode. But we do go through the survey and talk about what it might mean for you and your firm and what opportunities might lie for you. We hope you enjoy this episode. Favorite Christmas carol or song?
Christmas cannons.
Christmas cannons. What's that?
Yeah. I'm not going to sing it on here.
No. I'm not asking you to sing it, but what is it?
It's just I think it's Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Ah,
It's
I'm gonna have to look this one up.
it's a song cannons. It's like I think traditionally a wedding song or wedding song.
Christmas. You said Christmas cannons?
Cannons, yep.
Huh. Well, okay, I'll be listening. One of my favorite. Well, I have two. So I have the one that is my go-to. Means the most to me in Christmas, and that's Sleigh Ride. So anytime I hear that song, it's just kind of takes me to a winter wonderland, even if it's 60 degrees out. And then the other one is Dominic the Donkey, which is one of the more annoying Christmas songs. I think I may have shared that with you in our past, but
I think so.
it is
There's a lot of EOs in it.
a lot of EOS. Yeah,
Yeah.
If I ever want to annoy my family for any reason, either I'm bored or I have some intention behind it, I play that song as loud as I can, and they come running or yelling or throwing things. But
I mean, I like all the Bing Crosby, Nat
sure,
King Cole, all those kind of 40s, 50s classic Christmas songs.
me too,
Yeah.
And I'm boycotting Mariah Carey because I just can't listen to some of those songs anymore. I don't know why. It's the pitch. Like when she gets some of those notes, it just it doesn't even feel like singing. It's just like a shrill whistle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Personal preference.
aggressive.
Personal preference. So I had some design today for our conversation, and just this past week, the AICPA, along with CPA.com, released their CAS benchmark survey, CS being Client Advisory Services. And in it has a lot of good things to benchmark from. I think a lot of good news for folks that are in accounting, bookkeeping, otherwise. A lot of potential here. And I think at the end of this, I'd like to ask anyone who hears this to consider adding a service this year, something that would be in the vein of client advisory. And if they don't already have them, especially add one. If they already have some, I'm not gonna say pump the brakes. Just be intentional about what you might add. Make sure it fits with your niche or your intention.
Mm-hmm.
But just as backgrounds, over the last decade, public accounting has been looking to finding additional services to provide its clients. They started with audit and tax, and then they moved into consulting, and then most recently, the CAS has become popular nomenclature to describe advisory services that we offer our clients.
So, real quick, are you sold on CAS being client advisory services rather than client accounting services?
I am sold,
Okay.
and I think you will find them both used.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all made up anyway, right?
Yeah.
You can call it whatever you want to, and if you go out into public accounting and mention CAS, you're talking about the same thing. What's interesting, I think, is why don't they use accounting? Like the official word is advisory, but why don't they use accounting? And I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if they're trying to steer away from something, or not make it sound like something, but advisory is the word. So over the last decade, firms have been looking for new ways to serve their clients, new ways to drive revenue, new ways to support and build relationship with their clients, and they've wrapped the word CAS around it as being a description of the type of services they could provide to do that. And as you and I have talked in the past here in this podcast and elsewhere, CAS is a great place to be building your practice, and I think we've had some skepticism around it at times too,
Mm-hmm.
about whether it's really something that's going to, help firms. But anyway, I'm just going to walk through the survey and kind of drop in some of the insights that are included in it. So, insight number one: CAS growth continues to be significant and outpaces the profession's overall growth. So, um, I think it's 17% growth from one year to the next in CAS for the respondents of this survey.
Mm-hmm.
So they went from wherever they were to 17% better in 2024.
Now,
Um,
do you think that market size is growing, or that's just the firms are pushing, those particular firms are pushing it more?
I think they're just pushing it more.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like there's a better market for it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I just think firms are starting to pay attention to it,
Yeah, I think so too.
and so I actually think that number's kind of low, or I don't think it's something to celebrate. Like I think that's a sign that we may not see that type of growth in the future again.
Sure.
Um, because if they have been intentional about pushing this down, I would expect to see higher numbers.
Yeah.
That they're really getting into this. But the thing is, there's more competition in this CAS space than audit or tax. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
at least audit, maybe not tax. But
Yep.
the number of bookkeepers, accountants, folks that are out there that aren't even a CPA or aren't even an accountant, don't even have a degree, that are able to step into this space. The barrier to the entry is very low. And so when you come with a firm that's got all kinds of overhead and other costs it's trying to pass on versus, someone who's working out of their home and works whenever they want to and does a damn good job, the price is going to be different.
Yep. Yep.
So that's the one thing. The first insight is that it is growing. They are seeing growth. Um, and that's great. Second insight: firms can increase revenue by expanding their higher level service offerings. So that kind of sounds kind of bland. What it's really saying is that if you focus on, CFO services, controllership services, transactional accounting services, you can see more revenue from those than maybe some of the lower level things, which makes sense, right? It's a
Yep.
higher level product; you should be
Sure.
paying more. Um, but the four categories that they dropped it into is, um, these are the four services that are regularly offered by all respondents. The number one is transactional accounting services. So that's stepping into a transaction, a merger, an acquisition, an asset purchase, something along those lines.
I would take
97%.
transactional is the basic bookkeeping, the actual transactional work of that rather than the
Good.
advisory work.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that for me because I interpreted it wrong.
Oh,
So,
maybe.
so bookkeeping,
Yep.
I agree with you now that I look at it from the perspective you've shared. 90% is controllership services. The respondents provide that. 69%, which I don't know if that's low or high, they offer CFO services, and 61% offer business insight services. But it's interesting that 97% offer the bookkeeping, 90% offer the controller, 69% offer CFO, and 60%, 61 offer business insight services. So you can kind of see the makeup of the more popular CAS, which again begs the question of why isn't it client accounting services versus client advisory? Because the majority of it is the bookkeeping,
I
the
think
transactional.
I think it's accounting, and I think AICPA is pushing advisory to sound cooler,
Sexier,
for lack of a better word. Yeah.
fancier.
Yeah. Fancier.
Yeah,
It's
whatever the
accounting.
reason.
We're accountants. We
Right.
do accounting.
Why do we have to? I mean,
Like
we don't. I
three
guess we can
three
spruce it
of
up.
three of these four are accounting, and then the fourth, the business insights,
Insights.
that's
Hmm.
advisory.
Right.
So
Right.
maybe I've heard people say CAAS, accounting and
Well,
advisory
that and
services.
you bring up another point. I mean, even this bucket of CFO versus controller, like
Mm-hmm.
that there's a it depends kind of that should be attached to that on exactly who we're talking about because I think CFO services is a very subjective term. And
Right.
what one would consider a CFO service, another would see as a controller's service.
Oh, for sure.
It just depends on the context and the situation.
I
But I
think
think a firm needs to have an elevated service and whatever the highest is for their niche, or
There you go.
whatever height they can receive, they should have a high end, whatever they call it, but a high end executive service kind of.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
Insight number 3: define strategy and planning are key to a successful and profitable CAS practice. There's a big surprise there, right? Like the crowd just went nuts, like amazing insights. But it also falls in line with something that you and I say all the time, which is be intentional about this.
Right.
Which is again why my homework from this for anyone who listens is to consider rolling something out this year if you don't have anything, and if you do have something and have room for something that your clients would purchase, then consider rolling out something else. And there's some benefits to that we'll get to. You're going to like this one. Insight number 4: defined client niches increase efficiency and profitability.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just drop your pencil?
No.
Did you just did you almost just like faint?
Yeah. Groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking, right? and definitely something that we talk about a lot. And as we talked last week, Barry with AICPA, he's definitely encouraging the niching. And
Yep.
but the point being is, like with the CAS, you have a chance to really blow it out of the water with your pricing, because of how you're seen as an expert. And if you've got 10 clients that you're serving and supporting with transactional service advisory services, it's going to lend to your credibility.
Yeah. I don't think you can offer that business insights if you aren't niched.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
it's just whether you should.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there has to be some deep industry knowledge, and you can't do that. You can't be in every industry and know every industry as an accountant. As much as CPAs and EAs want to be in every industry, and
that
general expert.
Yeah, generalist expert. Exactly. Back to Ed.
Yep. Can't do that.
Insight number 5: adaptability and agility are essential to staffing in CAS. So this one is the one that I have got some personal opinions on, but this is the one where it just basically says that you need to have staff available, not necessarily a flexible schedule, but you just need to have the resources available when things pop. And it talks about outsourcing, offshoring, and all the things that you can do to help bolster your resources to support these services. But the truth of the matter is, most of, or a lot of, the CASIC, especially in that transactional bookkeeping space, is being offshored.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The number of firms that are doing that is all of them. I mean, the big ones.
Yeah.
You do still have the bookkeepers that, solopreneurs, independent accountants that are, handling it themselves. But at the same time, I know that I've got a couple of clients that are, it's just them, and they don't like doing the books. They like doing the higher level stuff. And so they've contracted with India or Asia or wherever, and sent a lot of the work and figured out a good program for it, and it works for them.
Yep.
And the clients are aware of it, but having the dedicated source resources for this is key to launching.
And then this is good for smaller firms. I think smaller firms are by nature more agile,
Right.
and can pivot more quickly. So that's a
agree.
good point for the smaller, especially solopreneurs.
I have to look at one statistic here. Of the respondents, and this is contrary to what I just described, but I have to say it. Of the respondents, 50% said that their CAS staff live in the U.S. So they're 50-50 on that. Insight number 6: better strategy and investment around technology means better productivity, efficiency, and staff satisfaction. No real surprise there.
Nope.
And number 7, here we get into a fun one you'll like. Insight number 7: pricing in CAS has shifted away from pure time and materials billing. So the percentage of survey respondents relying on hourly billing has moved from 53% in 2018 to 10% in 2024.
Oh, wow.
Pretty big difference, right? But what they've moved into is fixed fee.
Yeah.
They haven't moved into value-based or subscription. Well, maybe subscription. I don't see an argument against fixed versus subscription. They're basically the same thing,
Sure.
depending on how it's built. But I did think that was interesting. 53% to 10% moved from hourly billing. Where they've landed, and this is really interesting, where they've landed 20%, no, I'm sorry, 27% are in a fixed price agreement where they really don't pay attention beyond that. They just set a price and that's it.
And that's probably based on hours.
Right.
Initially.
Budgeted.
Yeah.
It's budgeted on that, right?
Yeah.
Or some formula that says to do this, it takes us this long. This
Right.
service, they check the box, they check this box, it adds up to a number.
Yep.
The highest or the most popular pricing model is a fixed price agreement with some form of monitoring for out of scope work.
So change orders on top.
Change
of
orders,
FPA.
or hey, that's not part of the engagement, or hey, that's a different tier, that's not included, or you have to pay X, whatever. But that's the most popular one. 60% has a fixed price agreement plus change orders. Only 10%, like I said, are on time and material now, which I think you and I both react the same way. I was surprising. I thought that would be a lot higher still.
I think it is higher, honestly, and maybe not in the demographic that this survey was done with.
Or maybe they've got like 50 clients and like 2 of them they do the fancy new model, and the other 48 they do the time and material, and they're just trying to make themselves more recurrent.
Yeah. Yep.
But here's the interesting thing: only 2% are using value-based pricing out of all the respondents on CAS, which is interesting. And I'd be curious to see, and it'd be a great experiment just to run, the difference between the value billing versus the fixed price agreements that they have. And of course, we can't do that study other than to say likely they could make more if they switch to that value based.
Probably. So I guess the only difference being is those FPAs are priced the same across the board instead of pricing the value that client is perceiving.
Right.
That would be the only difference.
Yeah. There's some other good stuff in here. 30% charge for the initial client assessment, 80% charge for new client onboarding, 55% charge for technology setup and all the admin setup for a new client, 66% charge for software applications that clients license from the firm, and 70% will reevaluate their fee with the client annually, which I thought was kind of a weird thing. Like, I don't want to reassess that at least quarterly, if not monthly. But only none of them, 12% do it quarterly.
I mean, the yearly would make sense if it was just a tax engagement. But this is CAS, so
this is CAS, right?
Should be ongoing.
Should be ongoing.
Yep.
So one thing they didn't include here was what all these folks are including in CAS, other than those 4 we mentioned: the bookkeeping, the controllership, the CFO, and then the business stuff. They did identify the top challenges for setting up CAS. Number 1 is staffing. Number 2 is the client's understanding what CAS is and the value of it. Number 3 is technology and implementation. Number 4 is internal alignment and strategy. Number 5 is pricing, and number 6 is marketing.
Leave it to accountants to totally screw up how to market something. Let's invent a brand new acronym that we don't even know what the fuck it is. and we have to sell it to our clients that aren't in the accounting world. Yeah. Right. Hey, do you want to buy CAS? What is it? I think it's client advisory service. I don't know.
Stuff. We do stuff. We do more stuff.
We
at the end of the day, you know what it's really trying to do, in my, maybe, I'm not going to say my opinion, but just the thought I had. For so long, the push was to create TBA relationships with clients, trusted business advisor relationships with clients, to build a stronger relationship, to be at the table when they were deciding big things, to identify opportunities where you could help them beyond the services that you're normally providing. In order to do that, you had to be a trusted advisor. Well, this is a reaction to that, and now we can charge them for being a trusted advisor because we're sitting at their tables and hearing about their problems and trying to help them, and then we can monetize it when they decide to do something more than what we're currently engaged to do.
Yep.
That was a diatribe.
I had a meeting today with our financial advisor, our personal financial advisor. And I was asking a few questions, and I'm not a CPA, don't pretend to be, but I was asking a few questions that they didn't know either. I kind of knew better than the financial advisor. It's like, it would be really nice to have a CPA on this phone call or an EA to talk through the tax implications of the investment things that we're talking about. Why can't that be a more common thing where they're both have a seat at the table for those conversations? And likewise, I had a conversation with my attorney last week about bringing a partner onto my firm. And same thing, we kind of are guessing at some of the tax ramifications that I have to then reach out to the tax accountant for. Like, they should be at that table, and that would be very valuable to me. Yeah, I don't know why that can't happen.
It means you don't have the relationship with your CPA that you should.
That's fair.
Yep. And your CPA isn't trying to create that relationship with you. Next, your CPA should be hitting you up right now saying, "Hey, how about some business insight services?"
Yeah. And what my CPA should have done is she knew that this is going on. I gave her a heads up. She should have said, "Let me know when your call with the attorney is, and I'll jump on." And instead she said, "Oh, just send me the contract and I'll take a look at it."
Okay. Well, I think it's a unique relationship that it takes time to create, and time is something that CPAs and accountants and bookkeepers and everyone that just don't have as much of, and it's easier just to say send the contract than it is to get on the call and be privy to these things. But just imagine the opportunities you might afford someone that you want to have around for everything that you're doing and listening in on things. And they would be there with an opportunity to say, "Hey, I can model this in like 2 or 3 different ways. It won't cost much. It'll cost, I don't know, $1,000, but I can at least show you like what each one of these will do to you. And it might save you some money, big money, potentially." Like, you would have been probably like, "Sure, yeah, let's do that."
Yeah.
But not being there doesn't allow you to miss that chance.
And instead, I have to drive that relationship and be the middleman between the two, where they're both not. I guess that CPA isn't. She's an FPA pricer, but my attorney, of course, is an hourly biller. So you don't dare set up a meeting with your CPA and your attorney because you don't want to pay more hours on your attorney. So that's
you don't even want them to look your way unless you're damn sure that that. There was one more thing here, and we'll wrap this up. 42% bill their CA services before they provide them. So they're billing them in the beginning of the month that they're going to provide the services. 50%, 52, 51% bill after they provide the services. I was surprised by the number that were billing before. And mostly because I think I've got a bias towards, there might be other things that pop up, and we can identify them and do them, and then that whip will be there at the end of the month to bill against. But anyway, it was interesting. So again, it's good to be aware of this information and to be thinking about this. There's you can use this to help build your own CAS practice, but my homework at the end of the day is to consider a new service if you don't have one in CAS, and if you already do, if there's a complementary one that you can add, maybe a higher level one or something you're not doing, and be part of this growth that others are experiencing.
Yep, you bet.
That's all I got.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yep. Cheers.
See ya.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Practicing Accountant Podcast. We hope you learned a little bit about CAS and what it might mean for your firm. And more importantly, I hope you consider the challenge I laid down and providing a service that your firm hasn't provided before that would fall into this category of client advisory services. And if you already provide some of those, perhaps there's a new one that your clients would be excited to receive or benefit from that you can add in this coming year. Please share or like this episode, and thank you very much again for watching this episode of the Practicing Accountant Podcast. Cheers.